Put your pencils and scorecards down. The 2025 first half grades are in. How did your favorite Twins player do? Find out once you get Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to source for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. Personally, it's my favorite show of the Imperial Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, brings you your team every day. Don't forget, hit like and subscribe, or hit. I want to do that way. Where applicable, I'm Dave Brown, an MLB writer who often needs to exercise self-control on his report card. Now he just needs to exercise. I'm also a BBWA member and a Hall of Fame voter, so I turned out okay. Across the Great Plains of cyberspace is Brandon Warne, who always works well with others. Brandon was a Twins fan who became a Twins writer, and now he's both. You can find our work at Access Twins, the newsletter, or at Zone Coverage, the blog. On the podcast today, the first part of our first half grades, we will look at the position players and maybe some of the coaching staff. We're trying to figure out that part. Saving the pitchers and the front office / ownership for next time. But first, we want to tell you this. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Brandon, the Twins did not quite finish at 500 in the first half. They are not quite in the playoffs race. So, I don't think we can give them a B overall, maybe a C plus or a B minus for their overall first half. Very uneven. Lots of emotional swings. Some of them have to do with the quality of play. Some of them have to do with injuries or just weird stuff going on. It was it's quite Twins fans have to put up with a lot. Whether it's the activity of the team, the lack of a sale from the front office, promises made and not kept. It's difficult to be a Twins fan in this era. How you holding up?
Not too bad. At the same time, you're less than a handful of games out of the playoffs, and you've played some of your best ball. Winning streak notwithstanding. Lately, saw somewhere that the strength of schedule for the Twins is something like 28th in the second half. So do what you're supposed to, and you should be right there where you want to be. And if you don't, you really have nobody to blame but yourself. And I'll be curious to see how things go at the end of the season, because if they don't make the playoffs, you could make a case to dump any number of important decision makers on or off the field. Then you add to it the potential for new ownership, and there's lots of layers to where things go from here. So I think basically this is a put your best foot forward for the second half and then kind of see what happens after that.
We'll have another show sometime later this week looking ahead. Maybe it'll be Friday before the next game is played, where we sort of look ahead. But this is kind of a look back at what's happened so far in the first half. The Twins come in 20th in the league in runs scored, 402, right between the Marlins and the Giants, 399. So there's a winning team. Ahead of also the Orioles, Rangers, Braves, big disappointment. Padres, maybe a little surprising. Guardians, it's always good to finish ahead of the Guardians.
Yes.
Rockies. Now we're getting into the low country, the White Sox, Royals, and Pirates. So I think there's room for improvement, but they finished 20th in runs scored, and let's see, home runs 11th. So they're hitting some home runs. They could probably get on base a little more. We'll look at, like I said, we'll take a look ahead in the next, not the next one of these, but later in the week. So I've got the players broken down. We'll start behind the plate since there's so many guys to get to. I grade out Ryan Jeffers at catcher as a B as a hitter. He gets a D on defense and a C overall. He is 6th in weighted runs created plus. Cal Raleigh and Will Smith are the only ones who are great. They are good for any position at the top of that list. Jeffers is in a group that includes Hunter Goodman, Carlos Narvaez, Alejandro Kirk, Jeffers, and then Agustin Ramirez of the Miami Marlins. Those are guys that are better than league average at hitters, and Jeffers is among them. It might have taken a little bit of a boost here toward the end of the first half, but he got there. There were times in the first half where Jeffers wasn't a very good hitter at all, but he seems to have himself in order there. Defensively, not so good, but hitting, Jeffers, good.
Yeah, I'm starting to think he might just be streaky. And if that's the case, that's the case. There have been plenty of catchers back in the day who would hit, 230, 240, pop 12 home runs and not be particularly good on offense. I think of like a Henry Blanco or a Miguel Olivo, or with less power, you're talking like a Tony Pena. Plenty of catchers have passed through the league who were just passable hitters who could defend. And maybe I'm talking about the wrong catcher now that I start saying it out loud. But basically what I'm trying to say is Jeffers, from an offensive standpoint, does most of what you could ask a catcher to do. I mean, I'd like to see him slugging over 400, but he's an eyelash away from that. 111 weighted runs created plus. He's been not well above league average, but safely above league average. You adjust for the catcher position and all things that go with it. And as much as I know people are kind of over Christian Vázquez, I would run it back with that duo next year with no hesitation whatsoever. The Twins don't have anybody ready to help at catcher. And I'm saying you could probably sign CV pretty cheaply based on how he's playing this year offensively. I think you have a decent little mix and match where you could pinch hit late. You can bring a guy in for defense if you need. There's options here. And Jeffers has shown in the past he can be a decent enough defender that all hope is not lost. But yeah, he's probably about a B for me, like a B+ offensively and a C- defensively. So yeah, solid B or thereabouts.
If you look up Jeffers at Fangraphs, they have a little chart for defense, taking everything into account. And he's 37th out of 46 catchers who have 250 innings behind the plate. So that's where he is in the context of the rest of the league. Vázquez on defense, he ranks 16th overall on defense. So maybe not great, but still pretty good. And dead last hitting.
Yeah.
A little bit of a mirror image kind of going on here. 42nd out of 42nd with people with 150 plate appearances or more. So, you put them together and the Twins are covered. But you can't play two catchers at the same time. So it doesn't exactly work that way.
He's kind of like the present day Martin Maldonado, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
think that's a decent comparison, but you look at it, it's hard to find catchers who do both. I named all the catchers who are better than average offensively. Again, Cal Raleigh, Will Smith, Hunter Goodman, Carlos Narvaez, and I know how to pronounce that, but still it's difficult. Alejandro Kirk, Jeffers, and Agustin Ramirez. Those are the only guys that are better than league average as hitters.
And how many of those guys are household names, for one, or were factors before this year? Because I didn't know who Hunter Goodman was before this year. I didn't know who Agustin Ramirez was before this year. The rest of the guys, I at least had an inkling of having heard of them. But each of those guys, where do they rank defensively? And then two, it's been 1 year of whatever for these guys. There'll be times where you'll see a guy have a nice year at catcher, whether it's, Jacob Stallings or Nick Fortes even had a decent little stretch as a catcher. Unless you're bringing in a guy like that, you basically have Martin Maldonado / Austin Hedges 2.0. And good teams have those guys. It's not a disqualifier. If you can bring him back on a reasonable 1 year deal, $3-4 million, I still think you run it back. For Vázquez, you obviously got to give him an F offensively, right? I mean, you can't even sugarcoat
some
it.
teachers don't like to give out Fs, Brandon, but
you can't sugarcoat it and say, hey, he doesn't strike out. That still isn't enough. So F for offense, I'd say B+ for defense, and that puts you right around a D, maybe a D- because the offense drags you down quite a bit. But with that said, I mean, good teams have catchers like this all the time, and it's not a disqualifier to take up a roster spot It's just more along the lines of how many plate appearances do you want to hand out?
Let's get into first base before we do our first break.
Sure.
Ty France, B is in boy on defense. He's still up there. He's fifth in outs above average and fifth in defensive runs saved, checking over at Fangraph. So he's still first base. I know he doesn't have a lot of range at first base, so it's got to be hit to him. But he's still picking and grinning over at first. D, he's slipped to D on defense, or a D on offense, I should say. Yeah. He's where is he? He's 33rd out of 50 first baseman in weighted runs created plus, near Christian Walker. So you could have paid a long-term contract for that. Jake Berger, Nathaniel Lowe, Donovan Solano. So it's not that, don't go asking for Donovan Solano. 7 points below Spencer Steer. He could make that up. 18 above Justin Turner. So that wasn't good. Yeah. So you see where I'm going here. For the money they had to spend, which was still for $7 million with his defense, which I give a B for.
7.
What?
$1 million.
Did I say 7?
Yeah.
Sorry. $1 million on defense. Maybe I just misspoke and you misheard me. How about that? We're going to run back the tape. Run it back live. All right. No, he's only getting $1 million. That's still not bad. You see Cody Clemens creeping up, though. He's not going to be as good defensively as Ty France, but he might be good enough as to where, especially if some of the other lefties aren't hitting, or players in general, you're going to need Cody Clemens in the lineup more. So, which is kind of what Rocco's been doing.
Yeah, I think with France, I'm going like a B+ on defense, but a D on offense, and then a D+ overall. It's hard to get enthused about Ty France, but for $1 million, he's giving you 4.4 Fangraphs WAR, so you come out to about 0.6, 0.7 if you have him play the rest of the way, which I honestly am not sure is going to happen. I don't know. I don't know how much longer you can do it when Aaron Sabato's doing what he's doing and Edouard Julien's doing what he's doing. And Cody Clemens is already stealing time from him, and not stealing in a nefarious sense. I honestly think the Ty France window could be closing, but I don't know. He doesn't walk, doesn't strike out, and isn't particularly productive on offense. And I feel like his runners in scoring position magic is kind of worn down too. So if he plays all year and gives him 0.7, 0.8 WAR, you get what you paid for and then some, but that's more along the lines of that's the problem was that's all you could pay for.
It would be nice if he walked more. He used to walk more, but he's not walking as much as he did. So he's not getting on base. I mean, he is getting hit. So there's that. But
he's not walked on Twins. He's
All right, so that covers catcher and first base, and we are going to cover ourselves with a break and then come back and talk more about the infield and other places.
But before we come back, we've got to give some love to our friends over at Monarch Money. If you have ever wished that handling your money was easier, Monarch Money can do that for you. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app, however. It's a complete financial command center that does multiple things. Multiple different apps do all in one place. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Surprising things you might find on your report when you start working with Monarch. If the cardboard boxes in your recycling weren't enough of an indication, are you spending too much money on Amazon? Because, well, I tell you what, that might be the case at my house. Maybe ordering pizza a little too often, all that sort of stuff. That's where Monarch Money steps in and says, hey, maybe just take a break here. Or this is the percentage that you are spending on this. You may want to take a look at that. And if you've got a financial goal you want to get serious about, whether it's a big purchase, you want a house, vehicle, or even if you just want to do maybe some home improvements. We built a deck on the back of our house a few years ago, and we had to plan, we had to budget for that. And that's where Monarch Money would have come in handy. And now it is coming in handy as we're using it today. So you look at your spending and it will tell you exactly where everything's going. And You might be surprised at how fast it adds up. You might be surprised, though, at some ways that you can make things a little bit better for yourself. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com, and you'll get 50% off your first year. That's right, 50%. monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year.
Locked On Twins returns for our second segment. We're giving the grades out for the first half to the position players. So far, we've covered catcher and first base. Second base, it's kind of a strange group. A couple of pretty good hitters. Brooks, Lee, Willi Castro. We've got Luke Keaschall in here. It's not, Edouard, Julien, Mickey Gasper. They've played some bit of second base. Cody Clemens played there too. But Brooks is very streaky at the plate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give him an overall C+ for hitting and a B for defense, which includes time at shortstop, and maybe a B- overall for Brooks Lee. I think they could use some more from Brooks Lee, and he could use some more from himself. But as a young player, he's learning, so we just have to go with the curve there.
Yeah, I think C+ for defense, B- for offense. He's improved from last year, 24 points on his weighted runs created plus. He's still 15% below league average. But when you've got a guy who can move around a little bit, switch hitter, and when he hit for Matt Wallner, and if you look at Lee's numbers against lefties this year, the fact that they are putting Lee in there over Wallner probably says how they're feeling about Wallner right now. But we'll get to Wallner a little bit later here. Lee, I think in general, probably about a C+ for me. He's made strides, and he's had stretches where he has been incredible. June was a very, very good month for him, and I think there's still better days yet to come. But for now, it's hard to be anything more than just like, he's doing pretty good. He's in his age 24 season, so he's not a finished product by any means, but he's closer than a lot of guys with 130 games in the big leagues, or his next one will be 130. So I think in general, he's doing all right. B-, C+, generally speaking.
Willi Castro, a B+ for hitting. He's probably the Twins' second or third best hitter. You get Clemens in there and Buxton. I guess a C for defense, that might be generous. I don't know. Willie's had some misadventures out there, infield and outfield both. Seems like he's probably played the outfield more than he's played the infield, though. So I give him a B overall. He's a good soldier. He's the kind of guy you need in the lineup. I like having him out there. Having him out there every day is stretching the point. You probably don't want to do that, but a good B for Willi Castro.
Yeah, I think you got to give him a B+ or maybe even an A- offensively, just from the standpoint of he's almost 25% above league average by weighted runs created plus. He's a player, though, for me, where the grades might not add up, offense and defense, because he still does some things where you're just kind of like, I don't know what the thought process was there. But at the same time, he'll make really nice plays in the outfield. He'll get big, timely hits, but then he'll also chase the same breaking ball in the dirt 3 straight pitches in the first at bat of a game. And you just kind of wonder, like, there's not a huge level of consistency plate appearance to plate appearance, and that's not disqualifier for someone being a good player. I feel as though he's not the kind of guy they're going to bend over backwards to try retain this offseason. And even if I guess you probably can't go into this deadline and trade him while still maintaining that you're trying to keep moving towards a playoff berth, just because of how important he's been as a glue guy. In another year, if someone offered you some pretty nice prospects for him, I think you'd consider it. Right now, I don't see a way you can. So I'm thinking like, B+ offense, C- defense, B- altogether, because while he's had good numbers across the board, there's just still enough questionable decision-making on a team that can rarely afford it that I can't go higher than that.
Not very many plate appearances for Luke Keaschall. I give him a B+ for hitting and a C or maybe a D for defense. But of course, that's somewhat related to his recovering elbow from Tommy John surgery. I'm not sure what kind of thrower the Twins have right now with Luke Keaschall. I don't know where he's going to play on defense in the second half. First base is possible. Second base is possible. I don't think outfield's going to work. I just don't see that. So maybe he'll get in a lot of time at DH. That's kind of a nice problem to have. But I look
for
forward very much to what Luke Keaschall can bring in the second half.
Yeah, and maybe it's at first base too. Again, I don't know if first base is on his docket whatsoever. But, I mean, offensively and defensively, you could give him an incomplete. You could give him an A for offense for how great he was. But it's only 26 plate appearances. Like, you do have to adjust for that. I think you'd probably go like a A- for offense and defensively a C-. You know, he had it didn't really show enough defensively in terms of opportunity or in terms of really any sort of play that stood out. You know, in general, maybe a B- because the defense, he's got a lot of defensive questions to answer, and he didn't answer any of them, which, fair enough, may not have been his problem or his fault, but that's where we're at.
If we're going to grade Edouard, Julien, and Mickey Gasper, D's all around. I mean, I don't like to give F's at midterms. It doesn't look, it doesn't inspire anybody. It just makes them nervous. I feel like that's the kind of teacher I am, Brandon. But I'm giving those guys D's for everything.
Julien, I'm going to probably give an F. It wasn't there. And it could turn around real quickly. Gasper, much the same. But again, it's combined under 150 plate appearances. So neither of them showed enough of really anything to get a grade higher than that. But Julien, if he gets an opportunity in the second half, I wouldn't be shocked if he has a nice little 2023 style run left in him. With that said, maybe that just wasn't real in the first place. So we'll see, but I can't give either of them a passing grade.
Royce Lewis, I don't know what to do with Royce. I don't know what they're going to get out of him in the second half. He has been showing signs of life with his secondary statistics and tertiary numbers and StatCast, and all that crud. C- for hitting. He just hasn't produced like you want him to, but he's also not been in the lineup all the time. Oddly enough, I think his defense has been good. I'm giving him a B on defense. And he's basically the main guy at third. Lee is the other one and Castro have had significant time over at third base. Jonah Bride and Jose Miranda are I've got a funny grade for Jonah Bride. I'm giving him a B for pitching, but not really a passing grade for anything else. So
yeah. It looked like he was raking down at St. Paul, or at least had a really good game recently. Jonah Bride.
Oh, good for him. But yeah.
Here comes the Bride. Yeah, Royce, I think I'd give a B+ for defense, because he's like, even the ball he barehanded the other, I think it was Sunday, they didn't make the play. They didn't get the out, but he just really seems to have settled in defensively at third base. Offensively, I think you just got to keep running him out there, hitting seventh or whatever, and expected WOBA. So he's got a 262 weighted on base average, 338 expected. So 338, for some context, is somewhere between it's basically right in the middle of Ryan Jeffers and Willi Castro. So, I mean, that's a pretty good offensive player. I still think you really don't have a choice. You just run him out there every day, bat him 7th, 8th, 9th, depending on who's catching and who you're facing pitching-wise, if it's a lefty or whatever. And I think it eventually gets to where, maybe he finishes the year with 100 weighted runs created plus. But that's a huge jump at this point. That's 36 points, and he's probably going to get another 250 plate appearances. It's an uphill climb to get back to even for Mr. Royce Lewis, but I believe it's in there. You're muted. Still muted. There we go.
But I didn't mute. We're going to take our last break. When we come back, we'll talk shortstop and outfield.
That sounds good to me. Once I find the button.
What have I done?
You tripped me up, but we got to go to Supply House. What's funny is my little man, when we tell him we're going somewhere, he says house at the end of it. So it's like, oh, Lay, we're going to Arby's. Oh, are we going to Arby's house? Well, if you need supplies for the skilled trades, or from the skilled trades, if you're working in them, you need to go to Supply House. It's not just supply with house at the end. It's Supply House, all one word. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order your products online. They have an easy-to-use website with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with over 200,000 parts in inventory from over 400 plus top brands, You'll always find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And if you're a trade pro looking for an extra edge, they have a free trade master program offering exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every single order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5, that's Seth Halverson 5, for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
Last segment for Locked On Twins. We're going over first half grades. We're looking at Carlos Correa. It's hard to, there have been times when it seems like he's never going to get going. But if you look, offensively speaking, if you look in the last quarter season, last 46 games, and I picked that out for no real reason because he's got a .299 batting average, .339 on base, and a .443 slugging. That's a nice baseline. It's not like Carlos Correa great. It's not like how he hit last year, but it's better than looking at the first 6 weeks of the season when it was kind of disastrous. So he's got a nice base from which to build. I don't know if this is Borg Schulte's transition, new hitting coach and all that. We lost the hitting coach that he liked, but if he can build on this then and have a strong second half, then the Twins have a chance to make the playoffs. Basically,
yeah. I mean, Byron Buxton's doing his part, but the other super friends are really lagging behind. And you can only ride Harrison Bader, Willi Castro, and Cody Clemens so far before you need some of your other big-time guys to perform. And the writing on the wall is that they have not been able to sync up offense and pitching. I saw somebody pointed out the 1 month they have a weighted runs created plus of 100 or better offensively, or close to that anyway. They have a 6-something ERA pitching-wise. And I feel like this team has no luck when it comes to sequencing things like that. It's just score 5, give up 6, score 1, give up 2. And this team is more talented than they've shown. They are a better team than they've shown. But until you actually do it, you can talk about it all you want. Games aren't played on paper. And it's just frustrating that they have not been able to synchronize it up. And I think Carlos Correa has to shoulder some of the blame for it. I mean, the offense was so bad they couldn't really move him down in the order. And it's maybe worth wondering if the concussion has done anything too. He's been better lately, like you said, but he still has stretches where he's pulling off breaking balls outside and not doing the damage you'd expect him to. So yeah, for me, Correa is like a C-. The defense has been good, but the bat just is too far behind right now.
And his defense, the numbers, it's hard to give too much credence to partial season defensive metrics, but it's been slipping a little bit. He's made a lot of mistakes lately compared to the first part of the season that he didn't make. So he's not, like you said, able to put it all together at one time, the offense and defensive package. So hopefully in the second half, he'll use this break time to do better. Outfield, Harrison Bader gets, I give him a B+ for hitting and an A for defense and A- overall. He and Clemens have been great acquisitions.
Exactly the same, by the way, because we're running low on time. Exactly the same.
Okay. So he's been terrific. And they're nowhere without him, without Bader and Clemens.
I couldn't have agreed more with Bader. And to think he was one of the last guys they signed is just stunning. Clemens with the bat, probably like a B+. You'd like more on base, but who cares? And, he's hitting for really nice power extra base hits. And defense, I mean, he's been fine. First base was a little bit of an adventure on Sunday. Not his fault necessarily. He got knocked butt over tea kettle, as we used to say back in the day on that one throw. But in general, Cody Clemens has been a very useful player for the Twins. A- for him, A- for Bader in general.
Buxton, I give an A+ for hitting. He's been one of the best hitters in the league so far. I give a B+ for defense just because the metrics say he hasn't been as good as Byron Buxton has been in the past. So we give some respect to old Byron Buxton, or young Byron Buxton as the case may be. And overall, an A for Byron, who's been like I said, one of the best players in the league.
Fangraphs won't let you split seasons for first half, second half WAR. I'm trying to see where 4.0 Fangraphs WAR ranks in a first half, but it's got to be one of the better first halves for a Twins hitter in team history. He's A+ offensively and then A- defensively. I think there's some level of eye test versus numbers that may shake out a little more in the second half. But in general, I mean, he's the only Twin to go 2015, or only the second Twin to go 2015 in the first half since the team moved from DC. Just an incredible first half.
Trevor, Larnach, not much help on defense, but we knew that anyway. Pretty good offensively, although all of it against right-handed pitching, because when he faces left-handers and he faces them too much, a little bit out of necessity, just because.
Yeah.
He's been absolutely miserable. He's been worse than Wallner ever was against lefty pitchers. So that's a problem for the Twins. Hopefully in the second half, they'll figure out how to manage around that.
Yeah, B- for offense and D for defense. He does nothing on defense for me. You could give him an F and I wouldn't argue it. But offensively, he's been fine. And yeah, it's where you lose sight of he's been great, very, very solid against righties and does nothing against lefties. The haters got what they want. Rockhead's giving him more time against lefties, and he's doing nothing with it.
Funny thing about that, Matt Wallner is slugging .606 against left-handed pitching and has a 700 OPS against right-handers, barely. It doesn't make any sense.
Wait, you mean the other way around?
No. Look at Wallner's.
Oh, Wallner. Sorry, I thought we were still talking about Larnach. Sorry.
I moved on to the other guy. So, yeah. So Wallner is hitting left-handers and not hitting right-handers.
It's like some wacky Wednesday stuff.
One reason why the offense has struggled the way it is. I'm giving Wallner a C. I don't know.
I mean, you got to give him credit for having he's 107 weighted runs created plus. When he hits the ball, it go far. But I mean, it's probably a C+ offensively, just because you tend to skew toward what have you given me lately, and then defensively, D+. So you're looking at a C minus, and maybe he's a prisoner of his own expectations that he's set for all of us. But it's been a disappointing first half for sure.
And if you look at his defensive metrics, they're not bad. The eye test, it doesn't look good, but he somehow, I don't know if it's just luck of positioning or what, but Wallner isn't that bad defensively on the defensive metrics. But
yeah,
that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Twins, where we talk about the first half grades for the hitters. We want to thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen today. But for your second, please check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night, which brings you every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And we didn't mention Deshaun Kersey Jr. and Carson McCusker.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's better to say nothing.
Sometimes it is.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow night.